She dumped me 3 months ago, leaving for a rich guy. Her family's whispers had carved me into nothing, and now she's back, desperate for me, eyes wide with something I can't name. One sentence from me, and her world shattered. Now I hold the pieces. I still remember the day she walked away, the crunch of gravel under her boots echoing in my chest like a heartbeat I couldn't stop. Her name was Emily, and she was everything I wasn't. Graceful, poised, the kind of woman who turned heads in our small town of Riverton. We'd been together for 2 years, tangled up in a love that felt like a wildfire, burning bright and reckless. But her family, the Prestons, never approved. They were old money, the kind that built mansions on the hill and looked down on folks like me, Jake Harrow, a mechanic with grease under my nails in a rundown apartment above the garage. They said I'd never be enough, that I was a dead end for their daughter. And Emily, God help me, she listened. It started with the whispers. Her mother, Margaret, would call her aside at family dinners, her voice low and sharp, slicing through the clink of silverware. He's not our kind, Emily. You deserve better. Her father, Richard, didn't even bother with subtlety. He'd glare at me across the table, his jaw tight, like I was some stray dog she'd picked up off the street. Even her brother Tom got in on it, smirking at me like I was a joke. I tried to shrug it off, told myself love could outlast their snobbery, but it wore her down. I saw it in the way her smiles faded, the way she'd pull her hand from mine when we were near them. Then came the rich man, Daniel Carver. He rolled into town like a storm, all polished suits and a smile that promised the world. He owned half the real estate in the county, and the Prestons fell over themselves to welcome him. I heard through the grapevine that he'd taken Emily to dinners, sent her flowers, whispered promises of a life I could never give her. One night she came to me, her eyes red and her voice shaking. Jake, I'm sorry. They're right. I need more than this. And just like that, she was gone, leaving me with a hole in my chest and a rage I didn't know how to handle. The months that followed were a blur of misery. I'd work late at the garage, the hum of engines drowning out the silence in my head. My friends, Mike, who ran the bar down the street, and Sarah, who'd been my confidant since high school, tried to pull me out of it. She's not worth it, man, Mike would say, sliding me a beer. Sarah would sit with me, her quiet presence a lifeline, but even she couldn't fill the void. The town talked, of course. Riverton's a place where gossip spreads like wildfire, and I was the punchline. Poor Jake, dumped for a millionaire. I'd catch the pitying looks at the grocery store, the snickers from Tom's buddies at the gas station. It ate at me, a slow burn that turned into something darker. Then, 6 months later, she came back. I was under a '98 Chevy, wrench in hand, when I heard her voice. Jake? I slid out, wiping sweat from my brow, and there she was, standing in the garage doorway, looking smaller than I remembered. Her hair was a mess, her eyes hollow, and she was trembling. I made a mistake, she said, her voice breaking. Daniel, he's not who I thought. Can we talk? I wanted to tell her to get lost, to let the door hit her on the way out. But something in me, some stupid, stubborn part, said yes. She told me everything over coffee at Mike's bar. Daniel had swept her off her feet. Sure, private jets, fancy dinners, a ring that cost more than my yearly salary. But it was a facade. He was controlling, jealous, accusing her of flirting with every man she met. Her family had pushed her into it, thrilled at the match, but they didn't see the bruises she hid under long sleeves. One night, he'd locked her in a room during a party, screaming that she'd never be enough for him either. She'd escaped, left everything behind, and now she was here, begging me to take her back. I should have said no, I wanted to. But then I thought of her family, of the way they'd torn us apart, of the humiliation they'd piled on me. And I saw a chance, not just to take her back, but to make them pay. So I leaned across the table, my voice low and steady, and said, I'll take you back, Emily, but only if you do exactly what I say. She nodded, tears streaming down her face, and that's when the plan started forming. It began small. I told her to call her mother, to say she was staying with me, that we were reconciling. Margaret's response was predictable. Outrage, threats, a demand to come home. But Emily stood her ground, and I could hear the strain in her voice as she told her mother to back off. Next, I had her invite Tom to the garage under the pretense of needing his car fixed. When he showed up, all cocky smirks and attitude, I confronted him. You and your family ruined us, I said, my hands clenched. He laughed, but I saw the flicker of doubt when I added, "Emily's with me now and she's telling everyone what Daniel did." His face went white, and he stormed out, promising retaliation. The real turning point came at the Prestons' annual summer gala. Emily begged me not to go, but I insisted. I cleaned up as best I could, borrowed a suit from Mike, scrubbed the grease from my hands, and walked in with her on my arm. The room went silent. All those high society types staring like I'd tracked mud on their pristine floors. Richard marched over, his face red. "What the hell are you doing here?" he snarled. Before I could answer, Emily stepped forward. "He's here because I love him," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "And I'm telling everyone what you pushed me into with Daniel." The gasps were deafening. Margaret tried to hush her, but Emily kept going, detailing the abuse, the control, the way her family had sold her out for money. I stood there, letting it sink in, and then I delivered the sentence that turned her world upside down. "You all thought I wasn't enough," I said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "But look at her now, back with me and telling the truth you buried." The room erupted. Shouts, accusations, Margaret collapsing into a chair. Richard lunged at me, but Mike, who'd tagged along as my backup, stepped in, his bulk enough to make Richard back off. The aftermath was chaos. The Prestons tried to spin it, claiming Emily was unstable, but the story spread. People in Riverton started talking, first in whispers, then openly. Sarah dug up old photos of Emily's bruises from a phone she'd left behind, and they went viral on the town's Facebook group. Daniel's reputation took a hit. Clients started pulling out of deals. Tom got into a fistfight with one of his friends over it, and the police were called. Emily's family was crumbling, their perfect image shattered, and I felt a grim satisfaction. But it wasn't over. Richard came to the garage one night, alone, his suit wrinkled and his eyes wild. "You've ruined us," he said, his voice shaking. "I'll make you pay." I didn't flinch. "You did that yourself," I replied. He left, but the threat lingered. A week later, my shop was vandalized, windows smashed, tools stolen. I knew it was him, but I couldn't prove it. The police shrugged it off, and I started sleeping with a bat by my bed. Emily and I grew closer through it all. She moved in with me, and we started rebuilding, slowly, painfully. She'd wake up screaming some nights, and I'd hold her until the shaking stopped. I started teaching her about cars, something to ground her, and she'd laugh at my terrible jokes. But the past kept clawing at us. Her family cut her off, leaving her with nothing but the clothes on her back. I didn't care. I had her, and that was enough. Then came the final blow. Daniel showed up at the garage, his face a mask of rage. "You think you've won?" he spat, pulling a gun from his jacket. I froze, my heart pounding, but Emily stepped between us. "You don't get to do this anymore," she said, her voice steady. He hesitated, then lowered the weapon, muttering curses as he backed away. The police finally took it seriously after that, and he was arrested the next day on assault charges. Now, it's been a year since that night. The garage is thriving. Word got out about my skills, and business is booming. Emily's working with me, learning the trade, and we're talking about a future, maybe a house, maybe kids. The Prestons are a shadow of what they were, their money drying up as scandals pile on. Richard's drinking, Margaret's a recluse, and Tom's left town. I still feel the anger sometimes, the hurt they caused, but it's quieter now. Emily looks at me like I'm her hero, and maybe I am. One sentence turned her world upside down, but it saved us both. And as I watch the sunrise over Riverton, I know I've got my revenge. Not in blood, but in living better than they ever will.